the real reason your family moved when you were young. My dad brought home this huge box when I was 7. Just walked in with it one random day after work. Mom looked at him like he'd lost his mind and asked what the hell was that. He just smiled and said it was our future. That was the night they first mentioned moving. We lived in this tiny apartment back then. I shared a room with my little brother Neo, who was 3. I hated it TBH. He was always crying or breaking my stuff. Mom and Dad had been fighting a lot that year. Like wall shaking, screaming matches that would wake me up at night. They thought I couldn't hear them, but our apartment was so small, you could hear everything. Something about bills and Dad's job and how we were always behind on everything. The box stayed in our living room for weeks. Dad would come home from work and immediately go to it, pulling out papers and making phone calls. Mom seemed stressed about it at first, but then she started looking at the papers too. One night I snuck out of bed and tried to look in the box, but Dad caught me. He wasn't mad though. Just sat me down and said sometimes grown-ups have to make big decisions for the family. Said we might be moving soon to a better place. When I asked why we needed to leave, he just said it was complicated, but that I'd understand when I was older. A month later, Dad came home super excited. He picked me up and spun me around. Something he hadn't done since I was really little. He said he'd found us our new home, that it was perfect, that everything was going to change. Mom was crying but smiling. They told us to start packing our things. I remember being so mad. I didn't want to leave my school or my best friend Paula. I threw a huge tantrum and refused to pack anything. Mom tried to explain that our new house would be bigger, that I'd have my own room, that the school there was better. But none of that mattered to me. I was 7 and my whole world was being turned upside down. The night before we left, I heard them arguing again. Mom was saying it was too risky, that we could lose everything. Dad kept saying it was the only way out, that we'd never get another chance like this. I didn't understand what they meant, but it scared me. We moved 3 towns over. The new house was bigger like Mom promised, with a yard and everything. Dad seemed different there. He was always on his phone, always leaving for meetings at weird hours. Mom seemed on edge all the time. She started checking the doors and windows every night before bed, something she never did before. A few months after we moved, these men started coming to our house. They'd arrive in expensive cars, and Dad would take them to the basement. Mom would make Neo and me go to our rooms until they left. I'd try to listen at the air vent, but could never hear much. At school, I made new friends eventually. This girl, Alora, lived down the street, and we'd walk to school together. Her dad knew my dad somehow. One day she asked me if my dad was rich now too. I didn't know what to say back. We had a bigger house, but Mom still shopped at discount stores and counted pennies at the grocery checkout. Things got weirder as time went on. Dad installed security cameras all around the house. He bought a safe for their bedroom that needed a fingerprint to open. Strange packages would arrive that he'd immediately take to the basement. And the men who visited started coming more often. One night I woke up to shouting. Not Mom and Dad fighting this time, but men's voices I didn't recognize. There was a crash and Mom came running into my room. Her face was white and she was shaking. She grabbed me and Neo, took us to the bathroom, locked the door and made us sit in the tub. She was crying silently, just tears streaming down her face as she held her finger to her lips. Eventually, Dad opened the door. His lip was bleeding and his shirt was torn. He hugged Mom for a long time, then picked up Neo who had fallen asleep. He wouldn't look at me directly. 2 weeks later, we moved again. Just packed up in the middle of the night and left. Dad said it was for a job opportunity, that we had to go right away. I lost all my new friends without even saying goodbye. Our next house was smaller. Dad was homeless. Mom started drinking these little bottles she kept hidden in the laundry room. Neo started having nightmares. I was so confused and angry all the time. For years, every time I asked why we really moved that first time, they'd give me different answers. It was for Dad's job. It was for better schools. It was to be closer to family, even though we had no family nearby. I'm 22 now, and last week I finally learned the truth. Dad's in the hospital. Liver failure. He might not make it. We were sitting in the waiting room, just me and Mom, when she finally broke down. Told me everything. Turns out that box Dad brought home was full of information about some investment scheme. Dad had lost his job months before but didn't tell Mom. He was desperate. Got involved with some guys who promised quick money. The box had their business plan. Dad put our entire savings into it, plus money he borrowed from someone he shouldn't have. We moved to that bigger house because it was part of the scheme. The basement was where they ran everything from. Those men who visited, they weren't business partners like Dad said. They were checking on their investment, making sure Dad wasn't skimming. That night when Mom hid us in the bathtub, one of the investors found out the whole thing was falling apart. Came to get his money back. There was a fight. Dad got hurt, but managed to convince them he could still make it